Well, good morning and welcome to today's FS Club webinar brought to you from London and the southeast of England today. And we're delighted to have an expert, Andi Mercer, who's a senior storage and data protection engineer with McAfee, a firm that I think we're all familiar with. And this is being produced in conjunction with Bridgeworks. And the title of today's webinar is Cybersecurity, How to Keep Yourself Safe Online. Now, you'll know me, I'm Michael Mainelli, I'm one of the directors of Zien, and as I say repeatedly, it really is a privilege to be able to introduce so many of these webinars, and we can only do so because they are brought to you by our various sponsors, and we're particularly appreciative of our sponsors because they allow us to range widely and freely across technology, economics, and finance. Today's session is going to be a little bit more on the technical side, but also, may I say, on the personal side. Andi has promised to give us, really pertinent and personal tips that we need. So this isn't necessarily about cybersecurity of your firm or what the IT department is doing, but it's how it matters to you and how to keep yourself safe. The format today is going to follow a fairly traditional FS Club format. My job is to get out of the way as quickly as possible to allow you to hear from our expert, Andi. I would point out three things. Firstly, yes, this is being recorded and the recording will be up in approximately 2 working days, so just probably Saturday morning, but available for you to share with friends and colleagues next week. The slides are not being shared, so you have to watch. They're here online. I know traditionally we do post them, but in this case, the slides are not being shared, so pay attention. But most importantly, the questions and answers. As regulars will know, we use the go-to question and answer facility for a variety of reasons. So the first reason is I'll be feeding your questions and comments and observations into a conversation with Andi in the final 20 minutes. But to do so, they need to be here. I'm not on WhatsApp or Signal or Zoom or email or whatever. I'm here with you, so please do use that. The second thing is all of your questions will be sent to Andi with the email attached. If you want to contact him about something or it's a point of great detail, please just send it in and we'll make sure that Andi gets all of the questions with your email appropriately attached. So with that, and no further ado, may I say, Andi, the floor is very much yours. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's great to be here. So hopefully you can see my slides.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So McAfee Online Safety Program is something that we've been doing for a significant amount of years. I've been personally involved in it for about 7 years now. So I specialize in sort of like more infrastructure stuff. So when it comes to things like online safety, then this is all stuff that I've actually learned through actually doing these presentations, and I find it really interesting. And it's also something I'm really passionate about as well. So first question is what did you do online? Michael, you can answer that one if you like. What did you do online personally?
Well, pretty much everything these days. I feel chained to my desk. So whether I'm Zooming calls or I'm answering emails or writing memos or even in a great rare cases programming, everything is online.
Absolutely, and in this day and age, that's exactly the same. Whether it's some downtime, here's some examples we've got with the downtimes with the kids playing sort of like games on sort of like tablets, WhatsApp, Signal was also mentioned as well, right through to PlayStation Network and also Microsoft, the Xbox one. I can't remember, Microsoft Network is it or whatever. Someone's probably shouting at me right now. Yeah, so the thing is nowadays we're well connected around the world, which means that sort of like we can actually sort of like travel virtually in seconds. And so whilst that's a really good thing in the fact that we can do that, the other thing is that we have this scenario where because we can do it, everybody else can do it in the world too, and not everybody is as reputable as people on this call. So we need to make sure that we're safe. So one of the things is IoT, the Internet of Things, and so down to the right-hand side there of the presentation, a few bullets of things that are actually connected to the network. There was an issue with Peloton recently where Peloton got hacked, but there, even Tesla cars as well Some others are obviously, you know, more conventional, so your laptop, your smartphone, your TV, yes, your fridge. I've got a funny story about that. I went into Curry's and they had an internet ready fridge on there with a tablet in the front. My son, who's now 14, he was about 8 at the time, decided to actually get it to play Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. And you know, we, unbeknownst to us, we just heard it just blaring out, and both my wife and I looked at each other and turned around and said, "Oh my God, that's my son." So yeah, that was a funny story. So yeah, gaming consoles and also printers as well. You know, your wireless printers, etc. So today we're talking about responsibilities. So responsibility for cyber safety, what I do to keep myself safe, cyber security, what I do to keep my stuff safe, and then cyber ethics. That's a big thing these days. They call them keyboard warriors, isn't it? Sort of how I treat others online. So firstly, what I do to keep myself safe. So the first thing is that in this day and age, with regards to you know, things that happen online, the majority of the hacking attempts that happen are through personal information. So keeping information personal, so examples there are passwords, your phone number, where you work, where your children go to school, where you live, your age, mother's maiden name, the list is endless. And people actually use that. I mean, it's mainly to do with things like security questions and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if you've seen in social media recently, but there is this massive scenario now where a lot of people make a post online, turning around and asking something a little bit pertinent, like what was your first car and stuff like that. But that's a security question if you wanted to reset your password. So a lot of people have been caught out by this. So, and it's data mining too. They actually keep that for like future use. So, you know, the thing is just that, you know, you need to keep personal information personal as much as possible, and not give out really silly things like, you know, your first memory as a child and all that sort of stuff. It's just stuff that they will actually keep as data and then utilize it at will against you to actually sort of like extort, you know, money or other things out of you. So passwords. Commonly used passwords, you can see a few there. Originally, sort of like you had 6 characters. That's the minimum that minimum you need for your password. So a lot of people did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then when we changed it to 8, we went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But how do we know that these are actually genuine passwords? It's because of certain breaches that happened where password data was actually stolen. Trying to not actually sort of name any companies that it happened to, but yeah, that was actually tied up and put into data online into a database, so we actually know that this is actually true. You need to create stronger passwords. Strong passwords are really, really important, and so the way that you do that is to actually use the 4 different character groups that you actually have available to you. So you've got obviously capital letters, lowercase, numbers and symbols, and a combination of. There are other things, other techniques that you can do as well. One of the main things is that, yes, it's all right to have a password, just one password for accessing the internet online. But if that password, that master password, actually ever gets breached, as in sort of like someone actually learns it, then if they have access to one of your accounts, they will have access to all of your accounts. So, you know, your bank, your social media, your shopping accounts, everything. So the critical thing to do is to make sure that you actually have a different password for each of the individual accounts. And I do encourage everybody to use 2-factor authentication where available. Here's an example of creating a strong password. Obviously, don't use the word password. I'm just saying. So mix upper and lowercase characters, and then use numbers and symbols as well. In this example, something that does actually may confuse people is you've got a 5 for an S, but you've also got a lowercase s as well. So that's something you have to be careful of. And my favorite bit, I don't know why they do this, just put a smiley face in the middle. So, but yeah, the main thing to do is to remember that Generating passwords as well, there's different techniques you can use. Michael, do you actually have a favorite song? I'm sorry, I keep on zoning in on you. Do you have a favorite song that you like?
Oh, I'll go with your son. I like Bonnie Tyler.
Total Eclipse of the Heart, yeah. So I can't remember the first line, but if you take the first line, okay, and take the first digit of every of every word, so every first character, that is actually sort of like becomes a string of an unbreakable password. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. The other one that I was talking about earlier on was Purple Monkey Dishwasher. So basically, you take 3 letters and put them together. So, for instance, I'm just trying to think of an example. So, if it's like McAfee red, white, and you actually make a password out of those, which would actually be unbreakable. The main reason why this is, and why I'm laboring on this, is that there is a thing called a brute force attack, which means that as well as all of the other sort of like known passwords, regular passwords, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the bad guys, the threat actors, also know that a lot of people will actually use a combination of dictionary spelled words, and so they use a brute force attack to actually go in and do that. So if they've got your email address for some reason and it's a username, which is on a lot of websites, then there is that scenario where you could actually do that. So you get hacked due to brute force attack. This is why two-factor authentication in these day and age is very much important. Sorry, we've laboured on that for a little while, so let's just move on to the next slide. Oops. Okay, so this is to do with posting what we post online. So obviously social media is a great thing. You've got TikTok, you've got Facebook, you've got Instagram, all of this sort of stuff that you have, and you can actually post on sort of like post on social media and stuff like this. But you see, the thing is that that's very good that you can do that. Oh, Snapchat as well. We'll talk about Snapchat in a minute. You can do all of this stuff. But what people seem to forget is what goes online stays online forever. Okay, so this is an example of something going viral. Okay, the lady on the left hand side there, she's agreed to a photo, but she's a little bit uneasy about it. She's just doing it so to keep her friends sweet and stuff like that. What happens is that the guy actually posted it on social media, and then a majority of people, like, as you can actually see, he's got 302 followers. So that's now online, and that's what it means to go viral. She doesn't want her image online, but the only way that she can actually get it taken off is either sort of like to go in through Instagram and sort of report it to Instagram and sort of like get the image back that way, or even just contact every single friend that he's actually just posted that to and they've liked, and ask them to delete it. So, you know, the difficulty is really difficult to do. With social networking, you need to work out who you're connecting with on social media. There was a study a long time ago that in real life you can only really maintain somewhere in the region of about 126 relationships. That's people sort of like who you interact with on a daily basis, that sort of stuff. So the other thing is obviously because people sort of like to can see other people's profiles and stuff like that, they can add them at their own free will, even if they don't know them. And this is the thing, is the fact that if you've got things that are personal to you, you know, you've got your pictures of your kids on social media, Facebook or whatever, you don't want everybody to be able to see that, unless of course you're an influencer or something like that. That's the only reason why. But yeah, suffice to say that that's a real tough one to do. So, you know, the thing is that if you know someone in real life, yeah, then it's okay, and you get on with them, then it's okay for you to add them on social media. There are sort of like scenarios that you actually get where on social media people will actually add themselves to you, and you think it's your friend, but it's actually someone who's pretending to be your friend. So, you know, there are sort of like certain incidents recently where I personally have had people who I've already got on social media as friends, and then another profile comes up. And that's sort of like I end up contacting my friend and saying, well, have you just given me another profile or something? You know, do I need to add this profile, and they say, well, no, I've been hacked and stuff like that. And you then sort of like go through the channels of reporting it to social media. So just be careful. The unsubscription friend request. So obviously Johnny Yang here, sliding into this young lady's DMs, as in not Doc Martens, not old school like me, direct messages. And so the best thing to do is that if you don't know the person, then don't add them. If you do have a scenario like this where sort of like someone adds you and it's unexpected, then just go ahead, just pick up the phone or text them and say, well, hey, you just added me on, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, blah blah, yakety schmackety. Was that you? Did you add me? And I'll either say yes or no. A lot of people these days expect that whoever they say they are online is the ones online, and that goes for dating websites and stuff like that as well. So let's look at some privacy and profile settings. Geotagging. So geotagging, so you take a photo nowadays with a smartphone, and you actually have data that's actually hidden from you, that is actually in a format that you can actually see it if you look at the details of the photo. An example of that is the actual location where the photo is taken. I mean, have you ever thought that on Apple phones and also Android smartphones as well, how sometimes they actually have those little applets within the actual gallery that turn around and say, oh, you were at a certain place at a certain date, and you can actually sort of like do some kind of montage and it plays music and stuff like that. Amazing, right? Well, it's utilizing that tag data on the actual photo to do that. So so there you go. So this is Jane. Jane has actually taken a photo and she decided to send it to a friend. So she sent it to a friend, okay, or who she thinks is a friend, but is somebody who she doesn't know very well, doesn't know her address or anything like that. But if you looked there, the latitude and longitude on the photo is actually there. A swift Google of that would actually place them outside the person, the Jane's house, basically. So if that's the case, then you want to send something, then sort of like either edit it so it doesn't actually sort of like have on the details on it. Don't send it at all. One of the good things about social media is that they do actually strip the data out when you actually share it online. So there is a blessing there, but you just have to be careful as to what you send. It's that simple that they can actually sort of go to your house. So to disable geotagging, for Apple, you go into settings, and obviously in the privacy, you've got location services, and you just disable it for camera. Go into the camera for Android, and then you've got your camera options there, and you can just take the geotagging off there too. So just to protect your personal information, a recap there: use privacy settings to control who sees your information and make sure the settings are as private as possible. Adjust your privacy settings to limit what the site shows about you. That includes sort of like who your friends are and stuff like that, and where possible, always use screen names. Don't use your own name, because obviously that will be available on the web. How to keep my stuff safe. So 688 new malware samples are identified every minute. As you can see, PC malware is up 103%. Mobile malware, 15% now. IoT, so that's your Pelotons and your smartwatches and stuff like that, 7%. And threats detected, that's up 12%, and that was from November not last year, year before last. Okay, so just remember, when trying to keep yourself safe online, that weak passwords is key. Don't enter games and contents online. When you get a pop-up and it says you get a free smartwatch or something like that, just don't do that. There's also HTTP versus HTTPS. Make sure that you always use a secure website, as in you have the little green lock in the corner when you're actually sort of like putting personal information in. Avoid point-to-point networking. That's downloading files from somebody else's computer unabated, and then just be careful when you download posts and attachments. online and in email. Quick thing about security threats. We have phishing, securing mobile devices, malware itself, and sniffers. Now, sniffers is nothing to do with dogs, obviously. It's something different. I'll just explain as we go forward through these slides. So there's an email request here. This is something that you might receive an email from Facebook turning around and saying, oh, well, you've just been tagged in a photo, click here. If you mouse over that, as in you roll your mouse cursor over, you can see that it's actually got a different URL. That URL will take you to a website will actually look like a genuine Facebook login. In this case, you put in your username and password, and then the threat actors actually have your details. And so basically, they can go onto Facebook and have Larry. This is where things like two-factor authentication would actually prevent that. So. Also phishing attempts. This is one here. It's an alert about a credit card. A lot of people use emotional response to actually get you to react very quickly. This one says your credit card's been blocked. You need to click here. But if you look at the URL itself, the actual the link that you've got in there, it's nothing to do with American Express. The other thing that we have here is yeah, that's me. This is a WhatsApp as well, unsolicited, request through WhatsApp is the same thing. Typically, if the banks or if there was anything that needed to be done, then it wouldn't be via any kind of text or anything like that. But again, you can actually see you've got on that one the URL has bit.ly, which is a shortened URL, so you don't even know where that's taking you. I wouldn't do that. An interesting thing about WhatsApp as well is that there are security features now which prevents you from being added to groups that you don't know. So make sure that if you do have WhatsApp, that you actually sort of like disable the requirement to get added to groups that you don't know. There is a setting. So make sure you're securing mobile devices. Obviously, they're your life and soul these days. They sort of like hold all of your apps, all of your social media, and things like that. And so, if they get stolen, then your life is literally in somebody else's hands. Some steps that you can actually do to actually prevent that is you always make sure you set a passcode. Don't do something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Just make sure it's something really meaningful that you can remember, but it's long enough so that it can't be brute force. Make sure you always log out of your accounts, because obviously if someone's actually sort of like bypasses your passcode, or even sort of like steals your phone after shoulder surfing you in a cafe or something like that, then you have this scenario where they've got full access to your phone and they can actually go onto your social media or whatever apps you've got open. Remember, photos are forever. I did say about Snapchat. Snapchat terms and conditions. Every time you take a photo, it becomes property of Snapchat, which means that they can actually use it for anything that they want. So, and then only download and install from trusted sources. A lot of kids these days, they like Minecraft and stuff like that. There's different versions out there. And the different versions are available from anywhere apart from the Play Store and the Apple App Store. And you see the thing is just that they do this, and then sort of like there's some kind of piece of malware inside of it that actually causes issues with their phones or whatever. Also, make sure that you've got some form of reputable antivirus software on your phone, anti-malware. It doesn't have to be McAfee. I'm not here to sell the product today, but there are others out there. They're free, so you don't have to use them, and they're available online. So and always make sure that you go into a Play Store or the Apple App Store to find them. And then malware, that's pretty self-explanatory. Malware is anything that is something that would do damage to your device, computer, etc. Different types of malware. You have worms, you have malware itself. There's also ransomware and things like that. Things that you can do to protect yourself is, if you receive an email with an attachment and it looks sort of like dodgy, even if it's from a friend. You know, there's no reason why, going back to what we said earlier on, picking up the phone and saying, look, received an email from you, it looks a bit dodgy, did you mean to send it to me? So and then botnets. So basically, you know, once you actually get a piece of malware on your computer, some of these can actually cause your computer to become zombies. That's not sort of like, you know, wanting to steal brains or anything like that, but more to do with the fact that people can actually control your computer unsolicitedly and take websites down by sort of like sending data to the websites. And if you've got like 150,000 zombie computers, the example is so everyone on this call, if you started talking to me now, I wouldn't be able to talk to you back. I wouldn't be able to process every single conversation. That's pretty much what a botnet does. Okay. Sniffers. Again, the joke, nothing to do with dogs. So sniffers are people, you've got like you're in an internet cafe, you're low on data, so you actually log on to the Wi-Fi for the internet cafe, or even coffee shop, or wherever free internet is. You see, the thing is that you don't know who is actually who you're connecting to. You think you're genuinely connecting to the coffee shop, but you might not be. This guy sat in the back corner here, let's call him a threat actor, and he's actually analyzing everything that's actually coming out of your device, computer, etc. One way that you can do this is either not connect, but if you need to connect for any particular reason at all, make sure that you actually have a reputable VPN software. Again, McAfee, we do have TunnelBear, which is one of our products, which means that you actually connect securely and encrypt all of the data from your device to go out onto a safe space on the internet. If you have a work machine and you actually need to work from a cafe, then you always make sure that you use your work or corporate VPN to log in, so that all of your traffic is actually encrypted between your device and your company. Just quickly touch on cyber ethics, how I treat others online. So cyberbullying, obviously cyberbullying is distinguishable from physical or verbal bullying in that potentially there's a huge audience, it can occur 24/7, and you can never see the victim's reactions. Is there any, with regards to anonymity, anonymity is sort of like creating a fake account with a fake username in order to actually sort of like cause some upset or hurt or name calling or worse to a particular person. The thing is with anonymity, every time you connect to the internet, there is always a breadcrumb trail of where you've actually visited, and so that can actually be subpoenaed by law enforcement in order to make a case for you. So yes, anonymity, you could potentially be anonymous, but you're not fully anonymous. So you know, it's something that we'll touch on later on with regards to that. Just remember, when trolls attack, it's not your fault. Just remember to keep the offensive post a message. You take a screenshot. Do not reply to the sender. That's really important. Block the offender and unfriend them. It says involve a grown-up parent, sibling, or teacher. This is something that we talk to the kids about when we actually do these in schools, deliver these presentations in schools. Remember to report problems promptly to a social network or mobile phone operator, and then for serious issues, make sure you involve the police. That's also important too. And coming back to the trolling, just why not be a positive force online? There's no point in being negative. There's too much negativity in the world. So, you know, it does make someone's day if you sort of leave a compliment on sort of like a nice picture that they've done or whatever, or even if you like a post, you know. So to summarize, sorry, just a little bit over, your action plan, talk to your kids about how to keep themselves safe by protecting their personal info through social media. Also teach your family about the potential risks of the internet, things like phishing attempts, malware, and sniffers, and then talk to them about cyber ethics and how to help educate them on how to spot cyberbullying and what to do if they encounter it. You know, there should always be some open discussion. So, and I believe that's it. Thank you very much, Michael.
Well, thank you, Andy. That's a great canter and a good solid background for people really getting started to some degree. Um, got a few questions here for sure, as ever. Just a
Amazing.
quick one. You made a point in particular about HTTP versus HTTPS.
Yeah.
Could you explain those two differences to the audience, please?
Okay. So the language of the web is HTTP. It stands for hypertext markup language. And what it is just basically a load of text. What happens is that anybody can read that. So anything that you actually sort of like send to the web is unencrypted. HTTPS, or with the secure on the end, that's what the S means that it's actually encrypted. So you're actually using sort of like an encryption certificate to actually send that data to the web.
Super, super. Um, another quick one, very much about the URL shorteners. So you had in your example, I think it was Bitly, and there are quite a few of those out there.
Yes, indeed.
Uh, and they do serve a useful purpose from time to time, but
They do.
like, can you explain how they're being used in particular in the phishing area?
So typically, if I sent a link to you, Michael, to, I don't know, the McAfee website, for instance, it's like it'll be McAfee.com. If I send you the Bitly link, the thing is that all you know is it's a shortened link, but you don't know where that's going to send you to, which means that if I wanted to be naughty, I could actually send you to a site that you didn't want to go to, or even worse still, actually get you to automatically download something from a website that you weren't expecting. So, you know, a file or a potentially unwanted program, malware, worm, Trojan horse, you name it. You don't know what you're downloading. It's like you see a hole in the ground and you stick your hand down it. If I sort of refer to Flash Gordon, you know, when he was sticking the hole in the tree, hand in the tree to the piece at the bottom. Yeah. So you just, it's not really conducive to sort of like good internet behavior to actually just click on links that you don't know where it's going to go to.
Okay. We got a question, well, actually a small point here from Trevor Hilder. Just I think it was just you being caught on the fly there, Andy. HTTP being hypertext transfer protocol, not
Yeah,
hypertext
sorry,
markup.
my apologies.
I kind of.
I'm a storage engineer.
No, very good. And there are far too many acronyms out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Ann Holder here. What does GDPR, the General Data Protection Requirements, really mean for cybersecurity? How effective is it in terms of being more secure online? It's kind of an interesting question there.
Very interesting question. So GDPR is actually, obviously, to recap, a standard that everybody works to with regards to data protection and security. With regards to cybersecurity, they're kind of like, in some ways, there are bedfellows to my mind, but GDPR is they're like mutually exclusive, so they work hand in hand with each other. So yes, in some ways, cybersecurity, in particular for DLP, digital leakage prevention, that's where cybersecurity would actually come in for GDPR processes. Now, DLP is something that is quite prevalent at the moment. Obviously, you've seen, you know, in the press over the last few years, a lot of people sort of like leaking data here, there, and everywhere. The new standard for protecting corporations is use of DLP software to actually prevent sort of like such data from being leaked in the first place.
A question, excuse me, from Peter, but also one that I have. Peter Welch, you know, what are your views on password managers? There are a lot out there. LastPass, Keeper, Dashlane, 1Password. I happen to use them, but you know, I'm sitting there wincing as you're talking about a master password. So, what are your thoughts on those?
I mean, they do serve a purpose. The thing is that more complex passwords that you have, you can actually sort of like, you know, have a password of up to 256 characters. You're never going to be able to remember that. They do serve a purpose. In particular, sort of like, you know, not trying to get too macabre, but you know, we don't all live forever. And then sort of like, if you've got all of your passwords sort of like in your head and not written down somewhere, then, you know, there is that kind of like scenario where sort of like people actually have to pick through your digital life to be able to sort of like, you know, shut down accounts and stuff like that. So, you know, in some respects they are good. There are certain things that you can actually do. I personally don't use password managers myself. I just somehow am able to remember them all. But even, yeah, don't take that as a really great thing to remember, because most of the time I can't remember them. So I just have to sort of like go through a combination of them until I get it right. But anyway, there is also the password reset option. So if it's something you don't actually use that often, and you know, it's good to actually reset passwords online. And then it's the security that you have around them, because at the end of the day, you're storing your passwords on somebody else's computer. And if it's compromised in any particular way, so the actual like LastPass or anything like that, then you know, your data might end up being online anyway. So there is sort of like, there are checks and balances. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. And just to be clear, you don't use one
at the moment? No, I don't. I in some respects, as the old grey cells are dying, I think I should use one, but yeah, at the moment I don't.
Well, I must say, I personally had never heard the idea of using songs, the first letter or the second letter of each word or whatever you choose. That's a great one, because I can definitely associate a song with any of the important sites that I'm using. I thought that was one of your best pieces of advice.
Thank
personally.
You. Well,
I really enjoyed that.
You use a base, and then sort of like, if you've got something like, if it's Instagram, you could put a -ig at the end. If it's PayPal, the -pp at the end, something like that. So each password, is it the master password? The master password is the same, but there is differential for each of the individual accounts.
Yeah, yeah. Now, got a question here, one that I'm also interested in. This is from Tim Connell. You know, what you mentioned there about talking to the police, but who do we report stuff to when we're really upset, and do they do anything with it?
Yeah, so the police do, speaking from personal experience, so the police do actually sort of like have a mechanism of reporting this. So I mean, I think 101's the number for the police. So it's the non-emergency number, basically. So you phone it up and report that. You can also report it online. You just need to make sure that you report it to your own constabulary. So say if you were, for example, in, I don't know, Gloucestershire at the time, and something happened, you got hacked or something, it would have to be reported to your local constabulary. So mine, for example, is Thames Valley Police. If you're in London, it would be the Metropolitan Police. So that's something to be mindful of when you're actually reporting it. On the other side of that, obviously, there is the scenario where each of the social media accounts, social media applications, they already have their own reporting as well. So you could also report it there if it's something.
Okay, good. Peter Cousins, he says, sometimes Firefox blocks access to websites that I believe to be genuine because it doesn't have a current security certificate. What should I do in that circumstance?
Good question. If it's in your own corporate environment, which I would imagine it would be, then you need to contact your local IT team through the help desk, and then sort of let's see whether they can actually do that. I find it frustrating myself. There are certain, because being a scouter, I'm an Explorer Scout leader. There's certain websites that I can't get to on my corporate laptop, and so I contact my local IT to get an exception for that.
Okay. We've had a very helpful comment, and it's not the first time Hugh Purser's been very helpful, and also Michael Levy, I see here, and I'm putting it into the audience chat area. They say you should be reporting phishing emails to phishing.gov.uk, report@phishing.gov.uk. My sincere thanks to Hugh and Michael. And Michael also points out Action Fraud is available for frauds.
Yes, indeed.
So that type of reporting here in the United Kingdom is very, very useful. Andy Cheedy is curious about your thoughts on the use of biometrics for a password.
It's good in a way. I mean, I do use biometrics. I do have a fingerprint, and it's kind of like good. But the thing is that in some respects, you know, if somebody who had you sort of like, you know, met you in the street and then sort of like took your phone off you, render you unconscious, could actually then sort of like use your either your face, if it's sort of like utilizing sort of like Face ID, or even your thumbprint to actually unlock your phone before walking away with it. The recommendation really is to make sure that you actually have a password of you know, a significant length, or passcode of a significant length, to actually make sure that you can unlock your phone. If you've got biometrics, then it's a good thing, but you know, you could, you know, get yourself into trouble because someone could unlock your phone while you're rendered unconscious and then sort of like go ahead with their business.
And another question from you: how can we secure the digital wallets and connections to identify your email address and personal details?
Digital wallets and connections. Sorry, not really understanding the question.
Yeah, I think the question is that you's after is the when you've got particularly on digital wallets, are those seem to be connected to emails? This is how they're catching a lot of the cryptocurrency frauds that are going on.
Yeah, something that I've done, and this is something I thought through, because you know, even sort of like professionals like myself talk about cybersecurity to get hacked on time to time, is that a lot of people actually use a single email address for every single thing, which is like the key to the lock, or the lock for the key to go into. So and the thing is that obviously with email flying around the world all the time, and it being one of the most unsecure methods of actually sort of like transmitting data, the email addresses get picked up quite quickly off of mail relays and stuff like that, you know, and so people, you know, threat actors can build up a picture of someone's email addresses quite quickly. So what I've done is I've made sure that I've got sort of like email addresses that are not actually utilized for email communication on the web, only for the applications that I actually need them for. So you create an obscure email address that is not actually kind of like known on the web. That's how I've actually done it personally. I'm not sure if it's a recommended thing, but you know, it's a way of actually securing it.
I mean, I certainly actually have done the same thing, believe it or not. So that's great. Just before we close, and I'm afraid we do have to close, and this is a topic that I like because it's personal. You know, what do you think of the future, Andy? I mean, this whole cyber crime and fraud and phishing has been a rising issue for some time. But do you see this continuing forever, or do you think that firms such as yours are starting to get this under control, and we might see it come back down again?
The issue is, and this is why I like doing what I do, is not so much the cyber crime. The thing is that the populace, the general public at large, look at security firms like McAfee and others to actually provide the answers. But you see, the thing is, the weakest link in any security posture is the person sitting at the keyboard. So this is why I like doing these presentations, because it's actually trying to get the message out there of stuff that you actually need to do. You know, it's very good that people actually download our software. There's things that actually sort of like put up online. We've got something in our products that actually sort of like gives sort of a red, amber, green traffic light system when accessing the web, and will actually ask you if you really want to go there. But yeah, the onus is very much on the person who's actually sat there at the keyboard or the device.
Yeah, because and even your software, with respect, and your competitors, at the end of the day, you don't catch all the malware either, do you?
But the thing is that, because, there's very few companies and the resources that sort of like companies have, vis-a-vis how many threat actors that are out there, and how many threat actors like start up on a daily basis. It's going to be a battle for years to come. The main thing is just to make sure that your security posture is good enough for you to sort of like keep your stuff safe, and that's from patching your devices. So basically, whenever Apple sort of like puts up an update, or Google puts up an update for their operating systems, make sure that you apply those, virtually immediately, and make sure your Windows machines are up to date as well.
Great. Well, sadly, we come to the end of time, and thanks, if I may, very quickly, firstly, to our sponsors. I hope you've found this a bit of a public service broadcasting training session here, but one that I who like to think I know all the stuff in this field, certainly don't, and found very, very useful. I'd like to thank you, the audience, for being very engaged with this. As mentioned, comments will be sent back to Andy. A reminder, we're not posting the slides on this one, sadly, but the recording will be available, and you can therefore catch the slides that way in about 2 working days or so. Finally, but the biggest thanks are really to you, Andy. I personally thought there were a number of things you said that were lovely little nuggets. I mentioned the song title usage for passwords. Your point about being very careful about sharing photos because they give away things like latitude, longitude, time, etc. Nothing like somebody figuring out you're not at home because you're in Majorca or something like that. And the idea of trying to avoid use of your last name and things like that basically start to trip people up. Interestingly, we seem to be going through a financial crime and malware and online fraud month, somewhat accidental, I hasten to add, but on the 9th, we also have a financial crime modernization. On the 16th, crypto scams. And next week, we're having an online webclave for those of you interested in the future of fraud. This is a discussion group rather than a webinar, but simply email the team if you'd like to join that. That's next Thursday afternoon. Anyway, our most sincere thanks to you, Andy, for appearing, and we hope that next time you come and update us, it's hopefully a little bit of a nicer world. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.